Hey guys, I am trying something new. So I am teaching myself to program and I'm using the Odin project to do that. One of the guides that they walk through is Learn to Program by Chris Pine, and it's been very good so far. And another thing the Odin project suggested was a podcast from a few years ago. And in the podcast, they talked about when you're learning something or when you're debugging a program, it's helpful to explain it to someone else, even if it's just an inanimate object on your desk. So you can explain what you're doing, and just saying the words gets them out there, and I guess helps you think it through and helps you digest what you're trying. So I thought I should, as I solve the problems, record videos showing how I solve the problems and put it on YouTube. And either I will look back on it when I'm a better programmer, and it'll be funny to see how I thought about things and how I explained things before I knew what I was doing, or I will burn out and I'll need to start learning again, and I'll have a guide to do that in the future. So, anyways, I've recorded this twice, but I had trouble saving, so hopefully these recordings are getting better and better. The program we're going to work on is right here. So, this is the simple version, and I'll tell you more in a second. But we're going to ask for input, create an array from the input that we give it, and then when we hit enter, we want to print that array in alphabetical order. And if we go down to the end of the page, that's where they lay out these programs. The tricky part of the one we're going to do is we're actually doing the second one here, where we do this without the sort function for arrays. So this first one was easy. We just added all these words to an array, and then when we hit enter, we sorted them and printed them. Now we're going to do that without the sort function. So let's go into the code, and I can say briefly how I did this. The high level overview is that I just want to, as we're adding words into the array, I want to put them in the right order at that point. So when we hit enter, we just print the array and everything's already in the right order. So let's just kind of dig in and start to go line by line. Line 2, we set up the array. Line 3, we create the variable, calling it new words. So this is, what we're eventually gonna add to the array. And then I built this while statement. While new word does not equal enter, or sorry, a blank string, then we kind of add it to the array. When we get this blank string, then we're just going to print the array, or puts the array to a string. I guess that's probably is that redundant? I'm not sure. Puts, because put string. Anyways, it works. Cool. So going up to line 7 and 8, so we're going to prompt ourselves for to enter a word, and then we're going to enter a word and save it down case. The approach I'm taking is, let's say we have 5 words in an array. I'm going to start with the last word, so array position 4, and I'm going to say, does the word we entered, should it go before position 4, the word at position 4? And then if it does, I subtract 1 from 4 and say, now we're going to check position 3. Should the word go before this? If it does, we're going to subtract 1 from position 3, 2, and so on and so on. And so that's what this on line 10, last word isn't the best name for this variable. I'm realizing, but this is the word we're trying to get the word in the array that we're checking against. And so the way I create this is the variable last word, and then we look at how many words are in the array and subtract 1. So if there's 5 words in the array, we're going to start with 4, so 5 minus 1, and that's array in the 4th position. And then I had some trouble with a lot of this stuff, and so there's a ton of just like sentences explaining what's going on at each step and kind of merging in the variables so that I can see where the math isn't working. Here's really the most tricky part of the thing, where we're saying like, okay, where in the position, where in the array should this go? And then once we get out of this while statement, this if statement here is choosing exactly, defining, I should say, exactly where in the array we're going to insert the word, and then we do it and print the array. So these are the tricky things. So I built this while statement, and basically, we set the last word. We set the word we're checking against in line 10, and then we compare that to the word being entered. So if the word being entered should go before, to the left of the last word, then we subtract 1, and we check that next word moving kind of to the left in the array. So this works. We're printing everything out at each step. I'm not talking about, let's leave off these conditions and come back and explain them in a minute. And then so we go, check against the 10th word. If it beats the 10th word, then we go to the 9th word, go to the 8th word, go to the 7th word, etc. Print it all out. And then when we get the last word, there's a little math we have to do to find the insertion spot. I call it the insert spot into the array, because we're subtracting 1 and it fails. Then basically I think we want to add 1 and then put it there. I forget exactly how the math works, but it works. And then we just simply insert it in line 27. We insert the word into the array in the right spot determined. So without these conditionals, so this is where the trick is. So we had to add these conditionals. If the last word is 0, then something else happens, and I'll show you why. So basically, if we're at the 0 position, then we have to perform differently than if we're at a different position, because I've highlighted kind of the logs here. So let's see, where are we? Okay, so here's the array. I've already added a bunch of words right in this array, and this is a test that failed, and I'll show you why. And this was really tricky because I was banging my head against the wall for this one for a while. So we have this array: amazing, BBB, good, great, rad. And then we're going to enter AAAB. So obviously this should be the first word in the array, AAAB. So we start at position 4. We compare it to rad. We beat rad. And so let's move to 3. That's what we're going to do. We're going to change the position to 3 and compare it to great. New word beats the word of position 3, great. And so we're going to move it to position 2, good. New word beats good at position 2. Move it to position 1, compare it to BBB. New word beats BBB. We're going to move it to position 0. So we're measuring against position 0. Amazing. We beat that, right? So we should then, you'd think that we should drop the word in position 0. But what actually happens is, so this is kind of the key stanza right here, these last 2 lines. New word AAB comes before amazing at position 0. So we're moving to the new position in the array, spot -1. And I was assuming that spot -1 in the array would throw back a nil, and the while statement would fail, and we'd move on to insert the word at whatever the math is, at basically position 0. But that doesn't happen in the array. When we go to -1, somehow that goes back to the end of the array. And so you can see this just keeps executing, and we beat -1, so we go to -2, and that goes to great, and beat -2, blah, blah, blah. Get all the way back here to -6, and now there's nothing, for some reason in the array, there's nothing in -6. And so that's when the nil is thrown up, and that's when we skip the while statement. And then I'm guessing we add, 1 and insert it at position 5, which is now here in sort of what actually is position 1. So what ended up happening is I could never get a word to go before in the array to go in position 0 for amazing, because I didn't realize, at position -1 in the array, a word actually shows up. So craziness. I mean, I'm guessing, I don't know. Well, anyways, it took a while to figure that out, and I had to do a big one because when I was just working with maybe like two things in the array and it wasn't going to the right position. It was just too short to actually understand exactly what was going on. I couldn't see the trend the way I can see it with like five things or however many stanzas here going all the way to position -6, which obviously shouldn't exist. Just I'm guessing it shouldn't exist. Oh wow, I'm watching football. There's an amazing play. Um, wow, cool. Anyways, so coming back here, I just had to add these conditionals. So, um, you know, and the last word isn't zero. Oh wow, he caught that. Crazy interception in the Georgia Alabama game. This is awesome. They better. I mean, they're not going to give it to him because I don't know. In pro, they would say he didn't have possession, but he had it. Wow. Anyway, side note, that is a crazy interception. Um, cool. So, anyways, I had to add these conditionals. Uh, don't subtract this again, right? Don't go through this process of subtracting if the last word is in the zero position because we really just want to add it to the zero position. And then same here. So I figured that and I was like, wow, that works. But then we had a problem because we're adding it back in. Because we're not subtracting it here, we're not going through this. We don't want to add it back in. So I had to create an if statement where if the last word is zero and it still meets this condition, then this should be the first word. And we inserted it at zero. Anything else one back in because that's the right position. And it just took some math and thinking to figure out, but it works. Was frustrated, banging my head against the wall, and then excited to move on to the next thing, which will hopefully be a little easier, or I guess won't be this deep into the logic, but we'll see how it goes.